Welcome back, it's me, Lou. I'm here for another action figure unboxing and review, and today from McFarlane Toys and their DC Multiverse line, we have Power Ring, who is part of the Crime Syndicate. Alright, so this, I believe, is John Stewart of, I think, Earth 3, and he belongs to the Crime Syndicate. But, alright, so someone corrected me if I'm wrong on this, but I don't know if this John Stewart Power Ring figure falls in line with the rest of the Crime Syndicate characters here, because I'm almost tempted to say I think these characters here are from Earth 2, where this figure I think is from Earth 3. So if anyone could clarify that for me, I'd greatly appreciate it. I get kind of confused when it comes to the all the different DC universes, especially like the Earth designations, and I know there's been different characters named Power Ring, and then when I saw this in the store, I'm like, this isn't the Power Ring that I kind of associated with, you know, this trio of characters right here. So, you know, any clarification on that, I'd greatly appreciate. So, you know, feel free to chime in below. So this dude is number 4 of the Starro the Conqueror Build-A-Figure, and if you've been collecting the line for a while, this is like one of those deals where it took a very long time for them to get to the point where you can actually assemble Starro. Unfortunately, I think the only figure I have of this line is just the Superman, which is I feel kind of stupid now. So the way that they released these figures, they were kind of like, it's not like the standard Build-A-Figure set where they released the entire wave of figures in one shot. This one was over the course of like almost a year, which is ridiculous. So back in January of 2022, we got the Superman, and then in April we got Superwoman, and then in July we got Owlman, and then 4 months later we get Power Ring. So they were kind of released like within 3 to 4 month intervals, and I'm not sure if that's a smart strategy on McFarlane's part. And I know for a collector, you know, I think it's kind of frustrating, because I think for the most part, you know, collectors, when it comes to Build-A-Figures, if they're really into the Build-A-Figure, they have no problem pulling the trigger in one go and just getting the entire wave. It seemed really odd to me that they would kind of like stagger the releases, especially so far apart from one another. But if they know something that I don't, you know, more power to them. So let's get started. Alright, so like I said, I feel kind of stupid that I held off on buying the other figures. You know, the only one I have right now is just the Superman. And I kind of feel the need now to like hunt down the other 2 figures I need. But I'm not sure how much the figures are going for on the secondary market. Alright, so he comes with the extra pieces. He comes with a Build-A-Figure piece, and then the smaller baby Starro right here. But we're here for the Green Lantern, so let's take him out. Alright, we get the trading card and the display base. This looks really crazy, the crazy Starro piece. You can see his teeth on the underside, and he has all his suckers on his tentacles. That looks, it looks really disgusting, but it's awesome. Okay, so this looks really cool. So one thing with this costume, so I'm unfamiliar with the John Stewart of Earth 3, but this costume kind of reminds me of Parallax, especially with the shoulder pads up here. He's just kind of like missing the cape, but it's nice. The figure height wise, let's get a measurement on this dude. This guy comes in at pretty much 7.5 inches. For a size comparison, here he is next to the McFarlane designed Batman from about maybe almost 2 years ago, if not 2 years ago. So size-wise, you can see he's a little bit shorter. I know some people are, they get kind of crazy when it comes to the scale with the McFarlane figures because it's very inconsistent across the board. Lately, the past maybe like 6 months, the figures seems like they've been scaled down a little. And at this point, I'm not sure if they're trying to correct the scale issue or if they're just making smaller figures. And this, regardless of that, they're not going to scale well with each other as always. I don't really know what's going on. And I'm just trying to straighten out his ankle right now. My OCD is getting kind of nuts. So, all right. Let's get started. Nicely sculpted. It's not the flashiest of all costumes. It's very for me, when I look at this guy's just kind of just there. Overall, very clean looking aesthetic. The head sculpt is nice. I love the fact that the mask is a very Hal Jordan Green Lantern kind of mask. He has the logo on the chest. A good shade of green for the plastic on the shoulders. It's kind of... it has almost like an iridescent kind of look to it. He kind of has these metal bands running across his arms and torso. Yeah, so it's a very solid looking figure. I don't know, there's just something about this design. It's not, I don't know, it doesn't really scream out at me. It's just just there. Which isn't a bad thing. I mean, if this is how it looks in the comic book, if it's accurate, it's accurate. I am impressed though with the paint application on the legs here. It's very clean, especially for it going across these bands, and it's really well done. It's really nice, well executed. Something feels off about his legs also. I don't know what it is. It's like, if you look at his legs, I'm trying to straighten them out so that they're both in line with one another. But this one on his left, if you look here, the body armor piece, it goes up higher on his thigh than over here. And I don't know if that's because if the legs aren't... I don't know. It's weird. I can't make sense of it. It almost creates the illusion that one leg's longer than the other. As you can see, it's very off. They don't line up at all. You see, this armor piece is a lot higher up on the thigh than this one. And the legs, the knees are in line. They're level here. They're level here. But then, that's so odd. I don't get that. One leg just looks shorter than the other. Yeah, there's some weird disconnect here on the legs. I don't get it. It doesn't look right. All right, so enough about that. Let's take a look at the articulation. This guy does not like to focus on my camera either, if you've noticed. I think it's because of the material on the shoulder pad. It's reflecting the light really strange, and my camera can't adjust to it can't find a focal point, so that's why it kind of gets out of focus every now and then. His head rotates left and right. Does he look down? Looks down pretty well. That's nice. Does he look up? It's decent. You know, this guy's a flyer, so it's nice that he could get his head back somewhat. His arms rotate, but they're going to collide with the shoulder armor. His arms go up, outward. He has the ball-socketed butterfly joint, and it's pretty smooth moving. The material for the arm on the plastic, it feels like a slightly denser plastic than usual, and everything just kind of moves really, really well, really smooth. Double pinned elbows right there. Nice and crunchy joints. Articulated wrists. He has a mid-torso cut, so he could kind of rock around. His waist movement is excellent, as you can see right here. No issue spinning him around. With some figures, it's especially in the McFarlane line, it's even just hard just to get them like to twist 45 degrees. But this guy is just, you know, full disco. You know, go nuts with him. It's kind of odd to me that the cut, it's clean, but it's just odd that, you know, the way it's cut at the waist, how it kind of like shapes down like in this like arch down at the bottom. But it's a clean look nonetheless. There is somewhat of a color disconnect between the trunks and the rest of his body. It's a much glossier material up here, and this is a little bit more matte, so it kind of sticks out a little bit, but that's just me being nitpicky. Legs kick up pretty high, which is nice, and they kick out. So with the exception of the shoulder pieces here, this guy is pretty well articulated. You know, the only hindrance in movements is just trying to get his arm upward, but even then with these shoulders, they don't prevent you from not moving up. They just kind of force the arm to move outward a little. But as you can see, this guy's pretty posable. Double pinned the knees, articulated ankles, articulated toes. A solid figure. And here is his power ring. I just forgot to point out that little detail. Let's get him into focus first. There you go. There's his power ring. I gotta admit, even though I'm not very familiar with this character, as an action figure, he's pretty solid in terms of his posability. He has the same amount of articulation as other McFarlane figures, but this guy, he just feels like he's meant to be posed. There's some figures that, as you try to articulate them and pose them, they kind of fight and resist, and they kind of push back. But this guy wants to be posed. It really shines in that regard, you know, and I can really appreciate that. This guy's a poser. He wants to be posed. Very solid in terms of the posability. Yeah, so this guy's warming. I'm warming up to this guy. This guy's pretty neat. When I first saw, to be honest, when I first saw him in the store, I actually saw him yesterday at Target. Picked him up, and I couldn't pull the trigger on him. And then I was back at Target later today because I had to run some errands and pick up a few things. And he was still sitting on the shelf. It was kind of weird. They had like 3 of these guys. And over the course of 2 days, no one picked up any of them. But I decided, you know what, I'm going to pull the trigger on this. I'm kind of curious. And I like it a lot. It looks fantastic. Now, this is the artist in me speaking, but if you're like an aspiring comic book artist, I think this figure is an excellent figure in terms of helping you develop and draw your poses. Because for one, his proportions are very much in line with the traditional comic book superhero. I forgot what the scale is, but you know, if you're an artist, superheroes are so many heads tall. And I think this guy kind of falls in line with those superhero proportions. Likewise, his musculature is just right. It's not too bulky or beefed out, and he's not too lean either. But the fact that you could get him in some pretty nice poses, especially with his proportions and musculature being very spot on in terms of like what you see in comic book illustration, I think this is a good model piece. Like if you're an aspiring comic book artist and you want to get the guys in like the most perfect like punching pose, this is a good action figure to use. The only negative side to that is that, you know, the shoulder pieces get in the way. But I think in terms of his posability and the way he's kind of defined anatomically, it makes for a good model piece. So if you're an artist, I think this I recommend this as something just to have on your shelf to help you with coming up with your poses. It's really, really good in that regard. So overall, you know, this guy, it took a while, but you know, I've warmed up to him. I think he's pretty cool. And if I had to rate him on a scale of 1 to 10, for me, easy 8.5 to a solid 8.5. The only thing that holds him back is his shoulder pieces here, just because it's going to limit the articulation. It doesn't prevent him from like rotating his arms upward, but when it does go upward, it wants to shoot out diagonally. But overall, solid effort, and I think in the end you're kind of, you know, rewarded with actually finally being able to build the Starro Build-A-Figure. You know, it took almost a year, but if you've been patient and you have the other figures in the assortment, you can finally put together Starro the Conqueror. And for me, I'm like kicking myself right now because now I have to hunt down the 2 figures I'm missing. All right, so with that being said, let's wrap this one up. Once again, my name is Lou. If you're new to my channel, welcome. If you are a returning viewer or subscriber, thank you so much for your continued support. I greatly appreciate it. So, until the next video, be safe, take care of yourself, buy lots of toys, and most importantly, be happy. And I will see you at the next one. All right, later.